So I strongly disagree with Ilhan Omar in her just on a substantive level. I think that white Americans have done enormous things for our freedom. I mean, who were the people who scaled the cliffs of Normandy? Many of them were white men. And it's not just I disagree politically, I disagree substantively. This is a great country. It is a kind country. It is a decent country. It is a country that has allowed an Indian American son of immigrants of Hindu faith to go represent the most economically prosperous place in the world. That would not be possible anywhere else. And the first thing that Democrats should start every speech with is America is the greatest country in the world. It's the most open country in the world. It's the least racist country in the world. And we want to make it better.
We have struck it rich today. Our guest is Khanna from the 17th District of California, who has been traveling the country talking about what the Democrats need to do to rehabilitate themselves and shadowing JD Vance. Congressman, it's good to have you on. You're one of our favorite guests. Alyssa Slotkin, becoming an influential voice in the party, says Democrats have to shed the image of being weak and woke, focus on kitchen table economic issues, tough on defense, tough on the border, and by implication, do not stress or talk much about issues like trans rights, and deportation. Bernie Sanders and AOC have a more aggressive, go after the oligarchs approach. Where does Khanna come down?
Well, I think we've got a pretty unified message coming in for 2026, and that is you've got the wealthiest person in the world who spends $250 million to put Donald Trump back in the White House. Donald Trump gives this person the keys, and he is gutting Medicaid. He is gutting public education. He is destroying the NIH, all the medical research that families have for Alzheimer's or for Parkinson's, totally getting rid of that. Why? So he can give more tax breaks to people, billionaires in my district. And that's offending the American people. That's why 1,000 people are turning out at town halls that I'm going to in red districts, not to see Khanna. They don't know Khanna. They don't care about Khanna. They're coming out because they're upset. They're offended that this billionaire is taking away things that have been in America since FDR. Even Ronald Reagan didn't go after the New Deal. He went after Lyndon Johnson and the Great Society. They're going after the New Deal. And so what do we need to do? We need to organize around that. We need to say that they're totally destroying the American economy with these blanket tariffs. They're taking away people's health care and their education. And that's what's going to ride us into a majority in 2026.
Congressman, I think those are very good points, and those are very winning issues. But don't you also have to quit being so damn defensive on the border? Why can't, shouldn't Democrats come out and say, we need a secure border, we are against illegal immigration, if we call it that, undocumented workers, and when it comes to deportation, we think the administration, everyone else should follow the judges and the rule of law, but not try to defend it, not try to defend Joe Biden's indefensible border policies.
Sure. I mean, someone said to me that people on the border should ask, knock, knock, and you say, who's there? And he said, that's all the American people want to know. They want to know who's at the door. They want to make sure that before you come in, folks are vetted. I think that's a pretty reasonable request. We want a secure border. I agree that we shouldn't have had 5 million, 8 million people who were undocumented just come in. But the point now, I heard Karl Rove on Fox News. He said Trump's numbers are going down on immigration because of this Abrego case. He said, well, I don't understand. Why not just bring Abrego back, give him a trial, and then if he's convicted, deport him? But, I was in rural Nebraska, 90% white community. I was out there as a decent politician talking about, the farmer cuts. They've cut $1 billion on farmer money, and farmers aren't going to be able to provide basic food to churches and to kids who need them. And, they don't want to talk about that. You know what all the questions were about? Half the questions were about immigration. They said, we hate the fact that people aren't getting due process in this country. We hate the fact that they're violating the Constitution. You want to talk about taking patriotism back? How about that the first thing about patriotism is standing up for the Constitution of the United States of America? That's a Lincoln-defined patriotism. And we are defining patriotism when we stand up for due process.
Well, you've made a compelling case that what Trump is doing in many cases is unconstitutional, showing contempt for the courts. But one reason he's able to do that without fear of accountability is the High Court's decision last year to grant the president immunity for many official acts. So, how much confidence do you have that this Supreme Court will stand up to Trump on 2 or 3 really important issues: impoundment, the Alien Enemies Act?
I have a decent amount of confidence. That they will. I disagree with Justice Roberts on a lot of things, but I was in his office once a few years ago, and to his credit, he actually started showing me pictures of the founding, and he had tears in his eye talking about that. I don't question his basic patriotism, and some of the things that Trump is doing is so fundamentally unconstitutional. I mean, I think of it. I told one of my conservative friends, I said, your argument on that the president gets to decide how much to spend and the Congress can only set a ceiling. Imagine if Barbara Lee became president and she said, I only want to spend $100 billion on defense. Are you going to say, okay, that's fine? Well, Congress is putting $1 trillion, but the Democratic liberal president can just spend whatever they want? I mean, it's an absurd argument, and I do think this court will reject it. The problem is that these court cases move so slowly. There's a lot of damage that can be done up till then. And the other thing is, look, the courts don't operate in vacuums in this country. Anyone who thinks that the courts don't read newspapers or look at poll numbers are naive. The judges look at all the politics. And so the more that citizens are engaged, the more Trump's numbers go down, the more we're speaking out, suddenly the more courage judges are going to find to be independent.
Boy, I hope you're right. Mark me down as a skeptic. You have made Vice President Vance a special target. You have shattered him. You went up to Yale Law School, where you're both graduates, and suggested he has contempt for the courts and the Constitution. It's not that I disagree with you, but he's a lackey. He just does whatever Trump tells him to do. Why focus on Vance? He's
trying to give some intellectual coherence to what Trump's doing. It's very hard to do, but he's trying his best. I mean, and that has to be taken on head on. He's not hiding the ball. Some people are saying, oh, but this Abrego case, we're trying to provide him, the Trump administration is trying to provide him a plane. They just can't get him back. Vance is not trying to do any of that dance. He's basically saying people like Abrego shouldn't have due process in America. He's out there saying that the due process standards for someone who's an immigrant should be less than those for a citizen. Well, that's a blatant misreading of the 14th Amendment, which says that every person has due process. He's out there saying universities are the enemy and attacking universities. He's the one who's saying to Donald Trump, just defy the courts. And Donald Trump's a lame duck. Donald Trump, that's why he keeps putting out this third term stuff. He knows he's a lame duck. The future of Trumpism is going to be people like Vance, and we need to make sure that he is soundly, it's exposed as totally hollow.
James.
So Congressman, when I see you, I think that you're a person that has trust across the party. I am not a moderate Democrat. I am a liberal Democrat. Okay, if you think I'm a moderate Democrat,
I know that.
Okay, but I do have in what I would because I don't like just say the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. All right. So you have now, and my argument is maybe these people are not worth the trouble. Maybe they should just go their own way. And then we talked about this in Outrage. Ilhan Omar says that white males are responsible for more deaths than anybody in the country. I have no idea whether that's true. Why say that? Why are we trying to piss off 1/3 of the people that are going to vote? Forget I'm a white male. I'm running a campaign. I'm running a strategy. I know that 70% of the people that are going to vote are going to be white. I know 48% of those are going to be male. So my rough non-Stanford back of the envelope calculation, it's about 1/3 of the electorate. When is somebody going to say, why don't you people just learn to shut up about this? You're not doing anybody any good.
Well, let me tell you about the white men I know in my life. I had a great baseball coach who I couldn't hit for anything. He'd insist that I went on and got my turn at the plate, even though they'd have to have me bunt every time. Then I had a 10th grade social studies teacher who came in dressed as Teddy Roosevelt and gave me a love of politics. Then I had a professor who was the one who encouraged me to go into politics. And you know what? I had a lot of white men who opened up a lot of doors. They gave me money to run for office, supported me. And a lot of the time I've spent in my 9 years in Congress have been in places like Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Lorain, Ohio, downriver Michigan, places that have been totally shafted, hollowed out, not because the economy was taken away from them, material benefits were taken away, the pride was taken away. We used to have a country where we celebrated the working and middle class, that they were the folks who built the steel, who won us our freedom, and we've lost that. So I strongly disagree with Ilhan Omar in her just on a substantive level. I think that white Americans have done enormous things for our freedom. I mean, who were the people who scaled the cliffs of Normandy? Many of them were white men. And it's not just I disagree politically, I disagree substantively. This is a great country. It is a kind country. It is a decent country. It is a country that has allowed an Indian American son of immigrants of Hindu faith to go represent the most economically prosperous place in the world. That would not be possible anywhere else. And the first thing that Democrats should start every speech with is America is the greatest country in the world. It's the most open country in the world. It's the least racist country in the world. And we want to make it better.
Tell that to the caucus, please. Okay, tell the caucus there's no future in us running against white men. So one of the things you were talking about that I highly recommend is Congresswoman Perez, I think, to Washington State, to kind of
I like her
lady. She did an interview with Ezra Klein, and that lady is deep. I mean, she's been very into our consumer mentality as opposed to our producer mentality. I can't say that I agree with her on everything. I got to read. I'm going to read the article again, but that lady has some intellectual help behind her. I mean, she's got this shit figured out, and it would be smart for anybody in the caucus to read that interview because there's a lot of good points that are making. I think there's a lot of points in that you would agree with.
I'm a big fan of her. I think she's the real deal. She actually comes from a working class background. She knows the importance of making things, building things. I totally agree with it. The one thing I do think this attack on consumerism of Donald Trump, I mean, for the guy who's a billionaire who lives in gold-plated buildings to be lecturing America's kids that they can only have 3 or 4 toys. I got to tell you, when we used to have family visit when I was growing up, and they would visit from India or other parts of the country, you know what they would love to do? They'd love to go to the grocery store. And they'd be so fascinated that we'd have like 50 cereal boxes in America. And it used to be the left that used to lecture people, oh, you can't have 50 cereal boxes, it's consumerism. Now it's Donald Trump lecturing them. Let me tell you, Americans want 50 cereal boxes. That's a great thing about America. We don't want to live in a place where you only get 3 dolls. And I think the Democratic Party can be the party of prosperity again and economic choice and letting consumers buy stuff. Clinton in '92, and you ran that thing, ran far more populist, progressive than people realize. But I don't think there's a problem. And here's the one thing you guys had figured out. It's not just the economy, stupid. You had figured out that Democrats should not be afraid of saying that we are going to help make the country prosperous, that we understand the future, that we're going to make sure your family, your kids have economic prosperity in the future. They're out there offering 19th century solutions to this stuff. They're out there saying high tariffs is going to bring high-paying jobs in Johnstown. They're out there saying that every person, grandkid, kids are all going to work in factories. Letnick saying, no, I believe we should build modern factories, but I don't think that that's the only thing people want. They want to understand how that they're going to build wealth in a modern economy. And we need to take that back. There's a golden opportunity for Democrats to take back what we've lost since Bill Clinton, which is to actually win on economic growth and prosperity.
So I'm going to turn back and make one point. On every positive economic indicator you can think of over any time frame you want, into World War II, into the Cold War, this century, Democratic presidents have, it's not even close. If you believe in historical analogies, if you believe in data, if you believe in empiricism, there's not an earthly reason that anyone that cares anything about economic prosperity would vote Republican. All of the evidence is against you. It's not close. GDP growth, income growth, stock market growth, you name it. Have somebody, you can do it yourself. You could probably do it in 5 minutes. If you just get the indicators, plug in any time frame that you want, and it's the crime. All right, what the
I think
stunning drop in crime we had in the 90s until when we banned assault weapons in 1994. You couldn't buy one until 2000.
having read a number of Ro Khanna's speeches, I think he's onto that too, James.
Okay,
I'm going to ask him just a couple quick questions before he has to go. Hakeem Jeffries, criticism of his leadership for not being aggressive enough. What do you say?
He's going to be speaker. He's got a lot of goodwill in the caucus. I think he can let it rip a little bit more. Come on, be himself. Is understandably cautious, but he's going to be speaker. He's got a lot of great will in the caucus. But I've said to him privately, and I think others have, go be yourself. Go be out there. Go take a few punches. We'll have your back.
You've called on the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to resign, you and others. Is he a danger to our national security?
He is. I would support. I disagree with him on almost everything. I would support Tom Cotton to be defense secretary. I just support Mike Rogers, chairman of the Armed Services, to be defense secretary. It's not a partisan issue. I just want someone there of competence. You've got someone who's bragging about leaking warplane plans to impress their wife, to impress their friends. You've got someone who's never run the greatest national security apparatus with the Department of Defense. I mean, it's shameful. And I give credit to Don Bacon. He's the only general. He's the highest ranking general in the Congress from Nebraska, and he's had the guts to speak out against what Hegseth's doing.
He's awful. Now he wants to eliminate a whole bunch of flag officers. Let me ask you a final question. We had Andy Bashir on this show 2 weeks ago.
I'm a big Andy Bashir fan. Big
we
Bashir
are too.
fan.
He's now putting out the word that he's really considering running for president. That's what this show does, Ro Khanna. So when are you going to start launching your exploratory campaign for 2028?
Here's what I agree with James about, which is we've got incredible talent in the party. Bashir, Shapiro, Whitmer, Moore, Buttigieg. I mean, a lot of folks. And I don't want to say that someone I didn't mention. You always get in trouble because you don't mention someone's name. But you got great talent, and I've got great friendships with these folks. And the task of the next American president is going to be so gargantuan that no one person is going to be able to do it. It's going to take a generation of people to do it. And so here's my view of it. I think folks should get their ideas out. We should have a clash of new ideas. It shouldn't be just kind of this coronation of anyone. Have a vigorous election. Right now, focus on the House, and then afterwards, whoever wants to run, and then we get a new generation. And our generation is going to stack up so much better than kind of the Vance, DeSantis, other generation, that our team is going to win. We could, it's less important who plays quarterback. It's more important that we've got the team. Now, people will decide who should be the quarterback, who should be the receiver, who should be on the offensive line.
But Ro Khanna could be one of those people, right?
Absolutely, I want to be part of the conversation and part of the leadership, and I'm what I'm going to offer to the party is my view on economic patriotism. That you take the AI, the robotics, the technology from my district, the most prosperous district in the history of the world, and we build with the know-how of Pennsylvania, where I grew up, or Ohio, and we say, here's how you actually reindustrialize America. Here's how you actually bring economic prosperity to places that have been shafted. And we have a 21st century vision of giving people economic security and economic prosperity in this country. And if we win on the economy, and we win on healthcare, and we have patriotism, I think all the rest it falls by the wayside. We're going to win, and we're going to be a majority party.
James, I'm delighted because that is not a Sherman statement, and Ro Khanna would add a lot to this conversation. You've been a great guest, as always, Congressman. Thank you for joining us.
And
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, whatever your future takes us, you're always welcome on this show to talk to us about it and tell us what you think. Love having you.
Appreciate it.